Hi there, I'm Tim Autrey, and welcome to Principle Based Performance Improvement, where we combine timeless wisdom with modern science and practical tools to help you move yourself and your organization toward better, safer, and more productive outcomes.
In the work environment, we have three types of workers. We have what we call A players, B players, and C players. Now, A players, which statistically are about 8 to 10% of a workforce population, these are your go-getters. These are the folks that are the ones that are taking ownership, they're proactive, something good comes along, man, they take the ball and run with it. One of the phrases that I've seen for these type workers in the past was gold collar workers. These are the ones that really make things happen in a positive way. Below that, we have B players. Now, B players make up about 80% of the workforce. Most of them good, solid workers, although if it's 80%, you got high Bs, mid Bs, low Bs, of course. But the B players come to work, they do their job, but they generally won't take the lead in something new. They'll follow the lead of the A players. Then we have the C players. What do you think the C players are? The C players are the slugs, the loads, the folks that the rest of us have to cover for, the folks that are continually grumbling and complaining and whining and moaning and groaning, and to use a 75-cent word, commiserating. Talk more about that in just a moment. So let's say you want to engage in some performance improvement efforts and something really comes along that really makes sense, like this approach we're talking about here. Once the A players realize that this really makes sense, what do? Man, they take the ball and run with it. What do the B players do? Well, they follow the lead of the A players. What do the C players do? Absolutely nothing. As a matter of fact, they kind of go beyond nothing, although they're just kind of gearing up for it here because they still don't believe at this point this is really going to happen and it's really going to take any footing. However, what we all need to recognize is as human beings, we are social creatures. And when we're working together with these folks, this has a psychological impact on the team. So what begins to happen here as you get some separation is some social discomfort and tension begins to develop. Now, as efforts continue on, A players continue on up, B players continue on up, what do you think the C players do? Well, they certainly don't go upward, and they go beyond doing nothing. So the further we get along this way, and the greater this separation, the more threatened these C players feel, the more they want to get things back to the way they were, so they engage in what's called commiseration. Now, commiseration is an intriguing aspect of human nature, which basically works like this. If I'm commiserating, I'm miserable. And somehow it'll make me feel better about me if I can make you miserable too. So I'm going to commiserate. So what that looks like here is these individuals will be doing everything they can to drag everything down. This isn't going to work. These guys are lunatics. Who the heck do you think they are? They don't know what they're talking about. This is nonsense. Just like the crabs in the bucket, they're going to do everything they can to attempt to bring the A players and the C players, or the A players and the B players back down. And at some point, what's going to happen is the level of social tension is going to become intolerable. And what's going to happen here is if you allow this to continue on your team or in your organization, your performance improvement efforts are going to hit a wall. Because of the fact that we are social creatures, once this reaches the level of intolerability, generically speaking, the A players and B players, they won't go any further. So you've gone as far as you're going to go, and you now have additional stress and tension amongst the members of the team. There's only one way to get up and over this wall. You must get rid of your C players. Now, what's the desirable way to get rid of a C player? Well, first of all, these are human beings, and chances are they have families and they have people that are depending on them. So clearly, the best way to get rid of a C player is to help elevate them to become a B player and A player. I can tell you over the course of history of PPI, again, I've mentioned earlier, we've been doing this for going on 16 years now, we have seen countless examples of people that come in to a human performance basic training or what we used to call mastery class, even some folks in leadership training, they come in and they have been conducting themselves as C players. once they get introduced to this, and you remember me talking about opening the door and inviting people to step through it? Well, once folks who have been acting like C players get introduced to this, man, they just transform. We've seen them transform right before our eyes over and over. It's absolutely amazing. Here's what we've discovered. We've discovered that a lot of folks that are acting like C players are highly intelligent, highly discouraged members of the team. And I'm going to show you how this happens. I want to ask you a quick question, and I want you to think about the answer real quickly. Generically speaking, who would you say is the most energized, engaged, enthusiastic member of the workforce? The answer that should come to your mind, or that would if you thought about it long enough, is probably the brand new person. Why is that? Because the brand new person comes on board, they're thrilled to have the job, they're thrilled they got selected, they wouldn't have applied at this place if they didn't want to work there. It was an acknowledgement of them to be hired, and they come in honestly believing they can make a difference, that they can matter, right? So they come in, and let's say you've got somebody that came onto your team, and it takes them a while to get qualified, and I'm going to kind of be a little metaphorical here, but it takes them a while to get qualified, and so they're out doing their job, and let's say their job involves doing some rounds, taking some readings, inspections, that kind of thing, and they're out doing their job, and they find something that is a classic setup for a mistake, which we call a landmine. We'll be talking about that in just a few minutes. So they say, holy heck, that's a landmine right there. So they go running off and they say, boss, we have to do this every Thursday afternoon at such and such a time, and we really don't even need to be doing that anymore because of this. And the boss looks at him and says something really intelligent like, come on, man, that's the way we've always done it around here. So that bright, enthusiastic young member of the team says, all right. So they go running off and they do their job, and they're still energized and they're engaged and they feel a sense of ownership for what they're doing, and might be a week, might be a month, might be a day later. They see another thing and it's like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. This is a legitimate safety hazard, and I know how we can do this in a way that's going to remove that, and it'll take half the time. So they go running off to their boss, I got this great idea on how we can do this thing in half the time, and it'll be a whole lot safer than what we have to do now. And the boss says, you just might be on to something there. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to write that down in a detailed email and send it to me, and I'll get around to it. But the boss is busy, and it's not really on his or her priority list, and so they never get around to it. And so this bright, young, enthusiastic individual who's exerting efforts and using their mind, and they actually care, posing these opportunities to make things better, getting shut down, not listened to, disregarded over and over and over. After a while, they're going to figure out that it's like hitting your head against a wall. And you know what? Hitting your head against a wall hurts. So at some moment in time, they're likely to make a choice to stop doing that. And they're going to make one of three choices. The first choice, which could end up being very good for them but bad for you and the company, is they're going to quit and they're going to go work somewhere where their opinions might be more highly valued. The next level down is they become what we call apathetic. And that's where they dive into the victim behavior of, all right, just tell me what to do. You don't want to listen to what I have to say. I'm not going to raise my hand anymore. Just tell me what to do. And then one level below that, they become what we call disgruntled. And that's what a lot of your C players are. Disgruntled to the point where they're so frustrated, they decide to cause problems. And that's what we're seeing with a lot of folks who are exhibiting C player behaviors. And as I indicated earlier, we've seen so many cases where these folks instantaneously transform. And because they're intelligent and because they really get this, they jump right up to becoming A players as some of the biggest champions that you could have. Now, I want to recap before we move on. The only way to get up and over the wall in your performance improvement efforts is you must get rid of your C players. The desired way to get rid of a C player is to help them transform into a B player or an A player. One more note on that before we go. Think about this. When you help a C player become something other than a C player, whether it's a B player or an A player, you have just benefited humanity far beyond, potentially, just that individual. Because that individual goes home and probably has a family. And when C players go home and they're absolutely miserable, how do you think they interact with their family? And heaven help the poor dog that greets them at the door, right? So you're helping the dog big time, and you're also potentially greatly enhancing the lives of their spouse, their kids. I mean, it's just win, 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 win all the way around. So I highly encourage you to resolve, become resolute that you're going to get rid of your C players. We go through this type of an effort here and do everything we can to raise them up. But if they refuse to raise up, you got to have the courage to cut them loose.
If you're finding these insights helpful, please share them with your friends and colleagues. Help your search engine find more content like this for you by hitting the like button before you leave. And if these PPI messages resonate with you, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next one. Until next time, my friend, be safe, stay humble, and make a difference.